Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of AEW news stories to get into today. So let's start off talking about the final ratings, the final viewership of the final Dynamite that was preempted due to the NBA playoffs. That was last week's Saturday Night Dynamite. And it's some pretty good news for AEW, you could say, because Saturday Night Dynamite drew the best audience for AEW since the time slot changed in the entirety of the month of June, as I mentioned, because of those NBA playoffs and being preempted to Friday nights and Saturday nights. Now, Saturday's new edition of AEW Dynamite featuring Kenny Omega defending the AEW World Championship against Jungle Boy in the main event reportedly drew 649,000 live viewers on TNT. This is according to F4W Online. Now, this is up 17.6% from last week's Friday Night Dynamite episode, which drew 552,000 live viewers. The Dynamite show on Saturday night drew a 0.21 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic. This is up 5% from the previous week's 0.20 rating. Now, Saturday Night Dynamite drew AEW's best viewership since the May 19 episode, which was the last time they were actually in that normal Wednesday night time slot. Viewership was up 17.6% from the previous week, while the key demographic rating was up 5% from the previous week too. Now, this was the first time Dynamite aired on a Saturday night since the NBA playoffs forced the show off its normal Wednesday night time slot, but it was much better time slot than the prior 4 weeks, airing in the usual time slot of 8 p.m. Eastern Time to 10 p.m. instead of the 10 p.m. time slot that they were having on Friday nights until midnight. Now, of course, AEW this week, today, will return to their normal Wednesday night time slot this week. Saturday's Dynamite viewership was up 2.5% from the same week in 2020, which went head-to-head against WWE NXT in the Wednesday night time slots. The key demographic was down, though, 4.6% from the same week last year. Last year's episode was the lowest rated of 2020 outside of the special 1-hour Thursday night Dynamite that aired in September. So, of course, AEW, I think, on the whole, will be relatively pleased with this. Let's be honest here. They'll be pleased that the viewership's gone up. I think the viewership's gone up, again, obviously moving off that Friday night time slot is one thing, but I think most importantly, maybe the day isn't as important here as to the time in which they were airing. Of course, airing on a Saturday is maybe better than a Friday, but let's be honest, the difference between airing on a Friday and a Saturday isn't too much different, to be honest. Again, it's still the end of the week. So people still have plans, especially in this world where we're getting towards the light at the end of the tunnel. When it comes to the pandemic, we're still getting to a point where people have got plans. People are doing stuff. It's the weekend, and they're going to try and be going out and about. And I know there's a concept certainly over here in the UK of Saturday night television, and I don't know if that's still the same in the United States. But Friday and Saturday, in terms of where you want to air, is there a big difference? Not really. The real key here was that they were airing from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. as opposed to 10 p.m. to midnight. 10 p.m. to midnight on a Friday is not a favorable position at all, and I think it certainly has opened up a lot of eyes when it comes to Rampage that debuts in August. I think many people... There was lots of different ways to spin these Friday Night Dynamites, and one of the ways to spin it was this is like a pilot. This is like an indicator of how is Rampage going to fare on Friday nights, and the answer that they've got ultimately is not great. Realistically, the answer is not great. It's not going to fare too well unless... I don't know if it's just because it's a 1-hour show, then maybe the AEW executives and AEW officials might be looking at it to say, well, as opposed to being 10 till 12, it's 10 till 11, Maybe fans will be willing to tune in for that extra hour. I don't know. I think if people are expecting big numbers from Rampage on Friday nights, I think they're going to be brought down to reality fairly quickly. Yes, the debut episode might do quite well. Yes, maybe the second episode might do quite well. But as we get into several episodes in, that's going to be really tough, and there's going to be some low numbers. Let's be honest. There's going to be some low numbers for Rampage that. The people that are anti-AEW and the people that have agendas against AEW, which there are plenty out there, Lord knows there are plenty out there, just check social media, the people that have an agenda against AEW will certainly be using those Rampage numbers. I have no doubt about it. I can already see the stories and the narratives and you name it coming out later this year. I can already see it later this year. People saying, Rampage is a flop, it's a failure. It's terrible. They thought they could compete with SmackDown or WWE on Friday nights, which is not the case. They're not competing with WWE on Fridays. AEW have looked at the grand scheme of things and said, well, where are we going to put this show? Realistically, where are we going to put this show? And again, they have their commitments when it comes to the NBA and the NHL in terms of TNT. Rampage, along with Dynamite, is going to be moving to TBS next year as well. So, it's a very... it's a really interesting time for AEW, especially as we head into July. I mean, July, of course, Dynamite returning to its normal time slot it does tonight, but you've got the 4 specials, whether it's Road Rager, Fight for the Fallen, or Fighter Fest. Those 4 specials, of course, we're returning to touring as well, so live fans are going to be in attendance once again. There's a lot to really be excited about when it comes to AEW in July and for the remainder of the year. Of course, as we get into September as well, the Grand Slam edition of Dynamite from Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York is going to be a massive, massive show for AEW too. So again, there's truly a lot to be excited about, and I think everyone, fans, AEW officials, you name it, I think everyone is just glad to see the end of this preempted, I don't even know if you want to call it an era, but this preempted time of AEW on TNT, because it did nobody any favors. Again, I think there was some cautious optimism going into it as to, let's see how this will be a good indicator for what Rampage is going to look like later this year, and there was some cautious optimism of, if we can do some good numbers, we can see we've got this real core, hardcore audience that's willing to follow us anywhere. And look, the numbers weren't great, and they were never going to be great. And like I've said before, the biggest concern that AEW will have, and time will tell this week, but it's a good indication because of Saturday's numbers, the concern that some people would have is, are the viewers going to come back because they've moved back to Wednesday, because they've moved back to 8 p.m. Eastern time? I think they will. I think the expectation is that they will. But there is a concern, isn't it? Because, like they say in television, the hardest thing in TV is to get back viewers that you've lost. Now, arguably, they haven't lost the viewers. It's just, again, they might have lost them to plans. They might have lost them to viewing habits, in terms of those viewers that didn't watch Dynamite for the last few weeks didn't watch it because they've got plans. They're working, they're going out, they're doing whatever. Hopefully, now that they're back on Wednesday nights, they're back in the favorable time slot, they'll get the viewers back that they've once had. So it's going to be interesting, and I think they'll be very happy with that number that they got on Saturday. And again, we're entering a very exciting period right now for AEW as we head into July. So some good news for AEW, no doubt about that. Eddie Kingston, now obviously a big story over the course of the last week or so, since that Saturday Night Dynamite, since Eddie Kingston did those post-show comments talking about WWE, talking about the competition on the other channel. It got a lot of people talking, certainly on social media. It was a hot-button topic among wrestlers and fans alike. And now WWE Hall of Famer Bully Ray has thrown his 2 cents in on the promo, and it's not favorable to the AEW star Eddie Kingston. Tuesday morning on Busted Open Radio, WWE Hall of Famer Bully Ray and Ryan McKinnell discussed the promo, and Ray had the following remarks to say about Kingston's promo towards WWE. He said, quote, "Eddie Kingston needs to shut the F up and stay in his lane. And his lane is an AEW guy speaking about AEW and flying the flag for AEW. And I'm completely on board. Tell me why that you were an indie guy for the majority of your career. Now this company took a chance on you, and you have learned to love it and everything about it. Now I'm on board, Eddie. But to take the easy way out and knock the WWE, there's no reason to go there. If Cody wants to destroy a throne, I get it. If Chris Jericho wants to say F you, I got it. Eddie, why? There's no reason for Eddie to say it." Now, okay, he said some other comments which I think we should speak about, and I'll give my 2 cents on it. He said, "I love Eddie Kingston to death. If we were having a promo wars and I was the captain of the team and somebody said you get to pick one person to do the promo for you, I'd most likely pick Eddie because of his believability, his tone, his inflection, everything about Eddie. Obviously, we kind of sound alike, so I appreciate Eddie's delivery, and the same way I appreciate Taz's delivery. Taz, another master on the stick." Now, I think what Bully Ray needs to realize there is, and again, there were people, I spoke about this before, I spoke about this video earlier this week, and I said that, my opinion was, and it hasn't changed on this at all, is that it's not a big story. It's not a big story, and it doesn't matter. People are desperate. People are desperate for a war, and then they get one, say, between NXT and AEW, then they're desperate for it to end. They're desperate for conflict, and there's this weird, again, tribalistic quality about pro wrestling fans that you can only like one promotion and not the other. If you like WWE, you must hate AEW. If you like AEW, you must hate WWE, and you must do everything in your power to bash WWE. And it's the same if you like WWE. You must do everything in your power to bash AEW because they're the competition, and I don't like them, and they're not pro wrestling, and they're not this, and they're not that, and their psychology's bad, and their wrestlers are bad, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. I'm of the mentality, and I think it's a rational, sound, logic mentality of you can like both. You can dislike elements of both. You can like elements of both. You can be a pro wrestling fan. You can enjoy it all. because like everything, like music, like films, there's different genres here. There's different genres here, and there's different films. You can like Marvel Comics, and you can hate DC Comics. You can like DC Comics, and you can hate Marvel Comics. You can like both, you can hate both. That's your choice. But the sheer just brutal attack of Eddie Kingston, oh, it's just another indie guy going after WWE. How dare he, how dare he? And then here's rah-rah Eddie Kingston, yeah, I hate WWE. It's just bizarre, and I guess it taps into this weird human psychology of you've got to belong to a tribe, you've got to belong to a team. And that's the same with pro wrestling. And it's very strange. As far as Bully Ray's comments about Eddie Kingston there, I think, to be honest, he's slightly misinformed, to be honest. Eddie Kingston can say what he wants. And Bully Ray basically saying if Cody Rhodes wants to destroy the throne, I get it. If Chris Jericho wants to say F you, I get it. What, because they're ex-WWE guys? Eddie Kingston tried out for WWE. There's the picture of him in the WWE shirt at an NXT tryout. He didn't make the cut. What, just because he didn't get signed by WWE, he's not allowed to bash them? Of course he can. He can do what he wants. And I have no doubt in my mind that when Eddie Kingston appeared on Dynamite last year, you don't think he got a phone call from WWE going, hey, Eddie, we just saw you, man. We're really interested in bringing you in. Because guess what? WWE has done that to 90% of the guys that have appeared on AEW programming that haven't been signed to AEW at that time. Suddenly, miraculously, they've got a phone call from WWE saying, hey, do you want to come in? Have a tryout. Your name's been on the list for a while, and just suddenly it's just come to me that, do you want to come in for a trial? So of course, if Eddie Kingston wants to be bitter about that, or he wants to say F you to WWE, of course he can. He can do what he wants. Again, he's a promo, and again, those comments weren't for the air. And I know in the modern day and age, I guess everything's for the air because social media is what it is, and everyone's got a phone with a camera in it, and everything's recorded, and everything's written down, and everything's transcribed for eternity. And that's the world that we live in right now. I totally understand that. But frankly, he was doing a dark promo. He was doing a promo that he thought was just for the live audience and was just to send them home happy. It was just to put over Jungle Boy. It was just to put over Christian. It was just to put over AEW. And it was just to those fans that were attending there. It's to say, look, next time we're here, make sure you come back because we love you. We love the fans. Rah, rah, rah. And these people in WWE that get offended by it, I can't believe they would say such a thing. Oh, it's never as if WWE would do that with WCW in the late 90s, right? They never did that. Oh, wait, yes, they did. Go back and watch an episode of Monday Night Raw from 1997. The commentary from Jerry Lawler and Vince McMahon and Jim Ross is great, but it's laced with anti-WCW stuff, laced with it. They don't like to recall that. They don't like to recall the propaganda that when Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan were going to be making their WCW debuts, they had the Nacho Man and was it the Old Stir, whatever, the Huckster, all that kind of stuff. And WCW did the same. But I know people don't like it. I don't like it. I'd rather they stick to their own thing. But Bully Ray to go, well, you don't have the right to do it because you're not an ex-WWE guy. Eddie Kingston can do what he wants. And he said, I'd rather him just fly the flag for AEW. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing in that promo. I'm not defending it. I'm certainly not defending it. And frankly, I don't really care that much about the old WWE versus AEW rah, rah, rah thing because you see it. It's whatever company is the second company at the time. Whether it was Impact Wrestling in the mid-2000s, whether it was WCW in the 90s, whether it's AEW now, there's always a second company, and those second companies have their fans. They are loyal to that company, and they're loyal to WWE, and they go after each other in some petty, weird, fantasy rubbish. It's like, I don't know. It's like weird Marvel versus DC stuff. It's like Batman fans going, I hate the Avengers. Oh, the Avengers are rubbish. Oh, the Justice League, all that. And it is like that, and even that is weird. And I bet pro wrestling fans look at that and go, weirdos. What are they doing? They know it's not real, right? It's pro wrestling. It's the same thing. Sometimes these fans just, need a reality check. Maybe Bully Ray does there as well. Speaking of Dynamite this week, Jungle Boy has a match that has been announced for Dynamite this week. This is, of course, coming after his World Championship defeat to Kenny Omega last week. The card for Dynamite's return to Wednesday nights has been filled out. As announced last night on AEW Dark, Jungle Boy will be in action on Dynamite, taking on Hardy Family Office and TH2 member Jack Evans in singles competition. This announcement continues an already busy past week for Jungle Boy. He unsuccessfully challenged Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship on the special Saturday night edition of Dynamite. Then it was was subsequently revealed that he was dating fellow AEW star Anna Jay. So obviously all of the discussions about Jungle Boy really winning on Saturday came to light as well. Now for Evans, this will be his first match on AEW Dynamite since February 17, where he and Helico wrestled new stablemates Hardy and Hangman Page in a losing effort. The former AAA Cruiserweight champion has since primarily competed on Dark and Dark Elevation, recently battling Matt Sydal in another losing effort. This match will also be a rematch from the March 29 episode of AEW Dark Elevation, where Jungle Boy defeated Evans with a snare trap. Now, of course, there's a plethora of other things that have been confirmed for Dynamite as well. That includes a TNT Championship match, Britt Baker teaming up with Rebel to face Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero. The show's going to be headlined by Eddie Kingston and Penta El Zero Miedo versus the Young Bucks as well. Also, you're going to have MJF facing Sammy Guevara in a grudge match, so certainly a loaded show for tonight's broadcast. I want to talk about QT Marshall as well, leader of the Factory. In my opinion, one of the worst factions in AEW right now. He was recently on an episode, he being QT Marshall, of AEW Unrestricted, and had a plethora of comments to say. But a really interesting comment he spoke about is that could we see more members being added to the Factory? And this is what QT Marshall had to say. He said, quote, "Well, I think the biggest thing we've been talking about is possibly adding a female. Before she signed with Mark Sterling, Jade Cargill would have been the first choice because she trains at the Factory. But we wanted her. She's got a lot going for herself. We kind of wanted to let that go. But there's a lot of extra talent that comes in that I think that if they were taught the right things at the right times, they have a lot of potential. And that's what happened with Aaron Solo. I didn't train him from scratch. He's been around for 13 years, but he just needed the proper guidance, and that's where his opportunity came in. There are some people out there, but I think adding a female to the group would really help us out. There's been a couple on Elevation and Dark that are not affiliated with any of the factions in AEW, so we'll see. It's just about getting them to make sure that they understand what it means to be part of the Factory, and that it literally means you have no problem stepping on anyone and everyone to make it to the top. QT Marshall, what a heel, what a heel. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a female being involved with the Factory. I just don't know if for a female that shows a lot of promise. Thank God Jade Cargill was involved in that, let's be honest, because why? I mean, the Factory, all they do is lose. All they do is lose. Any big match they'll lose. QT Marshall will lose to Cody Rhodes at Road Rager. Anthony Ogogo, he should have won, but he lost to Cody Rhodes at Double or Nothing. Jade Cargill would be in there. She'd be doing jobs to Brandy Rhodes, even during the pregnancy, because that's what happens in this storyline. The Rhodes always win. So I don't know if having Jade Cargill be in the Factory would be good, but adding a female to the group, I don't know, wouldn't be a bad thing. Legit Layla Hirsch comes to mind. That'd be a fun name. But again, I don't know if that's really the best faction for her to go to, because it's not hardly a faction that comes out on top, really, is it? That's how I would look at that one. Colt Cabana spoke about some interesting plans, actually, for why he was added to the Dark Order, and obviously it had to do with the late, great Brody Lee. Now, it was an interesting, because Colt Cabana, and this was in an interview with Fightful, and the interview is going to be dropped soon, but Colt Cabana and Brody Lee were slated to begin a rivalry soon, and Colt Cabana had even drawn up a manuscript to outline the planned feud with the former WWE superstar. Now, Cabana added that he helped pitch the idea for a program with Brody Lee following the Exalted One's AEW World Championship match against Jon Moxley at last year's Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Now, Cabana and Brody Lee being featured in a possible power struggle angle would have been really interesting, but the creative decisions meant that we sadly obviously never saw the match, and Brody Lee unfortunately passed away at the end of last year. Cabana still remains with the Dark Order, and it does make a lot of sense, doesn't it? It makes a lot of sense in that when Cabana was joining Dark Order, it did feel like it felt a bit strange, and that it was a bit forced. The storyline was that Cabana was on a big losing streak, and he kept losing matches, and Brody Lee aggressively went after Cabana, tried to recruit him, and eventually he did. But we never really got, I don't know, a real official Colt Cabana. He's officially a member of the Dark Order. It kind of just felt really sort of slow and gradual. And again, I guess the plan was that eventually there would be this power struggle of Cabana being the ultimate good guy. I mean, he's a proper babyface, isn't he? He'd be the ultimate good guy, and that he would try and, I guess, take the dark out of the Dark Order, and that would be against Brody Lee. And whatever you hear, plans like this and storyline plans like this that were meant to happen, that obviously never could happen, it's such a shame. And it's just it's such a reminder, It's been, 6 months now since Brody Lee's passing, and it feels like yesterday. It's still a very raw subject and a very emotional subject, and especially with the return of fans and AEW returning to touring soon. And, Brody Lee never got to perform in front of a live, packed out stadium or arena of AEW fans. His AEW career came in that pandemic. He debuted in March, and then unfortunately he passed away in December, had his final match in October on the Jericho 30 show, and that was it. And it's so sad because he would have just been such a big draw. He would have been such a big draw, and he just would have been such a great character in performing in front of that AEW crowd. They would have loved him. They would have absolutely loved him. So it really is such a shame. We spoke yesterday about the AEW Dynamite show in Boston being rescheduled, and we speculated as to why that could be the reason. We now found out as to why, because on the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer radio show, Dave Mounts noted that the event was moved at the request of Boston University. Boston University is using the Agnes Arena as a vaccination site for their students and asked AEW to change the date for Dynamite. Boston University announced in the spring that they are requiring students to get the COVID vaccine before the start of the fall classes. So that explains why, because it doesn't fit into the Boston University in that arena. They're using it for a vaccination site. So ultimately, what takes precedent? Dynamite or vaccinating? Getting vaccinated. Everyone make sure you get your shots. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these AEW news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this show, please smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Got the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestling News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.